I'd like to call the meeting to order. I am Tanya Cook, Vice Chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the committee meetings this morning, March 2nd, 2022. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building, located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. I would like to announce that we are continuing with our COVID precautions by limiting the number of attendees in the boardroom at today's meeting to the extent possible, requiring unvaccinated people to wear masks, and recommending that all attendees abide by the 6-foot social distancing rule. Thank you for your cooperation in this regard. In the interest of protecting the health and safety of any members of the public, those who may be attending today's proceedings may do so from an adjacent conference room. If any member of the public wishes to address the board, they will be escorted to the boardroom by the conference room moderator. Safety briefing. I'd like to invite our Vice President of Safety and Security, Shane Hunter, to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency.
Good morning. Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety and Security. The boardroom is on the first floor here at M.U.D headquarters, and the main entrance is the ones that we all came through this morning at the back of the room. There's an alternate exit over here on this side. Outside of that door in the hallway, you will find the nearest first aid kit, fire extinguisher, and the AED, should any of those items be needed. With the location of the AED in mind, if there is a medical emergency in this space, 911 will be contacted by the security at the front desk, and they'll escort public safety into this room. As we approach severe weather season, it's a reminder that our severe weather shelter is right outside this door in that same hallway. And if we need to evacuate this room and the building for any reason, we can go through this door, take 2 lefts, meet up in the parking garage where we will account for everyone's presence. That concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you. Roll call.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Frost. McGowan. Howard.
Here.
Kavanaugh.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
The Open Meetings Act. I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom, and a copy is also available in the nearby conference room set aside for members of the public who attend. Construction and operations. Good morning. Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer Gina Langle will review the capital expenditures.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hold on. Try it again. Good morning. Gina Langle, Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. Behind tab 5 is our capital expenditures letter. Of the 9 items, I will be covering a total of 5 of those on the letter today. The first item is under, well, here's the capital expenditures map, first of all. And as you can see, if you can move it down just a little bit more, Jay, thank you. That's where the 5 items are for system improvements are located. The first item that I'd like to cover is item number 1 under system improvements, GP 2693 for $148,000. This project is located at 98th and West Dodge Road and moves an underground regulator station above ground. This regulator is being replaced due to corrosion issues near the pipe penetrations through the wall. The district's corrosion engineer and gas distribution have recommended this replacement. Both the state of Nebraska and the city of Omaha have approved the proposed locations. This project was budgeted and is to be replaced in 2022. If we could just show the picture of where this is located, I'd appreciate it. So this again is at 98th and West Dodge Road, and you can see that the regulator station is quite a ways away from the customer in this particular one. So the city of Omaha and also the state of Nebraska have approved this location. The second item I'd like to cover is the second item under system improvements, also found on page 2, GP 2694 for $173,700. This project is located in the southwest corner of 102nd and California Streets, and it also moves an underground regulator above ground. These vaults typically fill with water, and the sensing lines cannot be traced. And as we all know, the sensing lines are extremely important to the operation and safety of the regulator stations. Both the state of Nebraska and the city of Omaha have approved this proposed location as well, and this project was budgeted. If you look at the map here, this is a map that also shows where the regulator stations are, and if we keep going down, we can see they're being put quite a ways away from any of the customer, where the customer is actually at. So this is out in the right of way with that one as well. The next item I'd like to cover is item number 3, also on page 2. This is WP 1881 for $718,998. Mr. Koenig brought this last month. We talked a little bit about the saddles that were being used for the condition assessment of the 54-inch pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipeline from 36th and Edna to Field Club Reservoir. And this is the route you can see on the map that we will be taking to do a condition assessment of this main. Pipe Diver is going to be used. It's a free swimming tool that can be used for online inspection of the main, and the tool needs an insertion and an extraction point, which is what we came with you last week to talk about, was the saddles of both of those. The inspection is scheduled for late spring pending board approval. This main is crucial to the connection between the Platt water system, or Platt South Water Treatment Plant, and Field Club Reservoir and 78th and Harrison pump stations. And this is a picture right here of the Pipe Diver tool. And as you can see, it has like fins that go out, and those fins will open and close as it moves through the pipe. And it actually does it while it's online. We will be doing this with Xylem. They're the company that has this tool. Our water operations will be working with the inspection of the pipe for it. It allows us to do it while it's an online service, so we don't have to drain the water out of the pipe in order to do this. If we were to drain out the water, it'd be 3 to 4 million gallons of water that we would have. Now, I know this is an expensive one. It's almost $719,000. But the criticality of this main is extremely important. And if we were to replace this main, it would be anywhere from $50 to $60 million. It's a very expensive main, and we want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of it. The next item I'd like to discuss is under building plants and equipment. This will also be discussed by Mr. Zellers in the bid letter, so just keep that in mind that he'll be talking about the bids for this particular one. It's to contract hydrant painting. It's on page 3. It authorized the district to paint up to 1,500 hydrants. Water distribution has a plan to paint 2,000 to 3,000 hydrants every year. There's about 29,000 hydrants in our system. Part of this effort is done by a contract painter. Summer interns also help with this process. The contractor will sandblast, prime, and apply a top coat, which provides a longer lasting finish. Paint color also provides information to the fire department about the capacity of the hydrant there. I always love to use that in trivia, to be honest with you, when I'm showing my friends around the city. And this amount was budgeted. The next item I'd like to talk to also is on page 3, item number 2. It's SAP data archiving. It's for $220,000. This project request is to complete data archiving for the district's SAP system. The SAP Enterprise Solution supports nearly all aspects of, hold on a second, of our financials, billings, inventory and asset management, customer service, and service and work orders. The system was originally implemented in 2007 and has several major additions and enhancements throughout the years. Throughout that time, all the functional data entered into the system remains in the system. There has not been any archiving, deleting, or purging of data outside of logs and system data. An intent of this effort is to begin to manage functional data that the district creates and uses in the normal course of business. The scope includes an analysis of the data and its structure to create, adopt, and begin to execute strategies to maintain data for performance and cost effectiveness. Costs are specific to the professional services to assist us with the analysis and the initial archiving of the data and the source of SAP system to an offline archive solution. That completes what I have. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Director of Plant Engineering, Stephanie Henn, for a review of the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Stephanie Henn, Director of Plant Engineering. I am fortunate enough to have the next 5 agenda items, so I will be brief on all of them. We're going to start with the finals letter behind tab number 6. We have 6 finals this month, 2 consultant service contracts for plant projects and 4 water development projects. I'd like to draw your attention to item B, an environmental services agreement at Platt West with Burns and Mcdonald Engineering. The final cost was approximately double the original contract bid cost. And the reason for this project was primarily for environmental monitoring of wetlands. The original agreement was approved by the board in June of 2017, and then in July of 2018, an amendment was approved to basically extend those services for another 3 years. So the original agreement was for 3 years, an extension of 3 years, so that's why the cost looks about double. Items C, D, E, and F are water development projects. They have change orders associated with them, so approving these finals also approves those change orders. I'd like to also touch on item D for just a moment. This is a water development project that was constructed by Cedar Construction. It has a larger change order on it of $85,830. The overage on this one is primarily due to changing from push joint to restrained joint pipe to accommodate the developer. There were some trees and sidewalk and that kind of thing in the way, and so that caused some extra costs, but the developer is bearing those costs. Any questions on that? Great. Moving on to tab number 7.
Hey, Steph.
Yes.
Whoever bid letter A within $4.03, that's who I want doing my stuff.
We will make sure that they know that.
Crystal ball.
Here we go. Tab number 7, air emissions consultant agreement with SCS engineers. Management is requesting a 3-year agreement. SCS has been working for the district since 2011. They aid us in keeping us compliant with all air emissions regulations. This is both on the EPA side and also local regulatory side. SCS has performed very well as our partner over the last decade. The air emissions for the district are primarily associated with our backup generators and direct pump drives in our water system and gas system. For this 3-year agreement, SCS is proposing a 4% increase in costs. This is not 4% per year. This is 4% over the entire 3-year period. Any questions on tab number 7? Super. Moving on to tab number 8. Water Services Partners, Next Gen Plumbing, and Veshkerna Plumbing and Excavating. We are requesting a 2-year extension for Next Gen Plumbing and Veshkerna Plumbing and Excavating. If you recall, in June of 2021, we brought to you, and you ultimately approved, the hiring of 3 water service partners. At that point, that was Backlund Plumbing for a 3-year contract, Next Gen Plumbing for a 1-year contract, and Veshkerna Plumbing and Excavating for a 1-year contract. At that time, Backlund was already our established water services partner, so that's why we proposed a 3-year agreement, which we are in with them right now. Next Gen and Veshkerna were newer contractors to us, so we just proposed a 1-year agreement with them. All 3 of these contractors have performed very well over the last year, and so we're recommending a 2-year extension for both Next Gen and Veshkerna. That way, all of those 3 contracts will end at the same time. They will conclude at the same time. As we've done in the past, all contractors will be paid on the same common price schedule. This was a new endeavor for us last year. What we did is we got quotes from all 3 plumbing contractors. We blended those quotes, and so they are all paid on the same price schedule. All 3 of these contractors agreed to this pricing and to this approach. Any questions on that? Great. Moving on to tab 9 and 10. These are large change orders that we're bringing to you. Typically, we bring you the change orders along with the final pay estimates. That's what we've done in the recent past. However, on these 2, we needed the contractor to perform the work and to get paid for it. And it's going to be a while before we final these projects. So behind tab number 9, that's a change order for water main installation for R&L Carriers Subdivision. This is a project that's being built by Cedar Construction. The change order amount is approximately $40,000. In this particular case, a new industrial building was being built in this new subdivision. The paving had not yet been complete, but in order for this customer in this new industrial building to get a permit to occupy, they needed water. And so typically we install the water after we install the paving. In this case, we were able to run water ahead of paving, which we don't typically like to do, but we were able to do it in this case. Therefore, we were able to accommodate both the customer and the developer, but it did cause some extra costs. But those costs are being paid by the developer. Any questions on that? Great. Last but not least, tab number 10, change order for security fence replacement at the operations and construction centers in the LNG plant. This is a project that's being built by Elkhorn Fence. The change order amount is approximately $42,000. Again, this project won't be finalized for a while. That's why we are bringing it to you at this point. We needed the contractor to do the work and to also get paid for it. After the project was bid, our safety and security team had requested that we add a couple of items to this project, one of them being an automatic slide gate in the fence for vehicles, and another one was a pedestrian gate. This caused some extra costs, but well worth it. Any questions I can answer on that or anything else?
Just a comment to share with my colleagues on the board. Steph prepared a report for me that I'll ask her to share with the rest of the board.
Absolutely.
Going back to 2018 on talking about contract bids and the actual amount that was paid. And we have change orders in front of us today, but going back to 2013, I was very impressed with, I think it was about just a 5% difference in change orders with the actual amount that was paid. So
Correct.
Tim made a comment a few minutes ago that it's pretty uncanny that the amount, the estimate for the projects are pretty much right on. These are exceptions rather than the norm today. So, and I know our staff is very vigilant about making sure that the bids are accurate and the contractors stay on task. But thanks for preparing that report, Steph. And I just continue to be impressed with the bids that are put out. And again, today we have a few exceptions of that, but that's going to happen, especially with the world we're living in today. So
Absolutely.
Thanks, Steph.
Thanks for that comment, and we absolutely will share it with all the rest of you folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Director of Engineering Design, Jeff Skovanec. He'll review the proposed water design consultant agreement with Olson Engineering.
Good morning, Jeff Skovanec, Director of Engineering Design. I'm going to speak to you about the letter behind tab 11. That is a request for the president to enter into a one-year agreement with Olson for design services. And I'll speak to a few details that aren't found within the letter. And I'll start by mentioning that in December, if you'll recall, brought the request to the board for the president to enter into a 3-year extension with HGM Associates for similar design consulting services, and the board approved that. We thank you for that approval and that support. Back in December, I had mentioned that over the course of years that we worked with HGM, in 2018, when we kind of went back out in the marketplace and looked at the interest and abilities of local firms, although we selected HGM as our preferred partner and continuing with them, The district selection team was very impressed with Olson, their abilities, and essentially recommended engaging them in the future as opportunities came along. And we've done just that. We've grown the projects that we've worked with Olson. They've increased in scope and complexity. They have completed a very challenging water main relocation for us. They've done 2 transmission and distribution main extension designs for new development. Both happen to be down in the southwest part of our system in the Highway 50 corridor. Those were all done under individual agreements. Olson has performed well and kind of grown in understanding what we expect and provided services that are quite vital to us being able to meet our design needs. While the HGM agreement continues to benefit the district, we think that this second agreement with another design consultant will be equally beneficial to us. It's going to provide us redundancy, not having all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak, with a single partner. I would share with you that our design workload is heavier than it's ever been in my 26-year career with the district, and so being able to balance that workload, manage it, provide some flexibility within projects and scopes is important to us. Just last month, Gina Langle spoke to you about a very significant Southeast Bellevue main extension by HDR, so we're certainly in need of design consulting services to supplement our internal workforce. And we do believe that having multiple partners is going to continue to provide us healthy competition for the district design services. So in summary, I would say that this request for the president to enter into a 1-year agreement with Olson is expected to provide similar benefits and values to the district, our design folks especially, and help us meet our need in that regard. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, on a review of the bids on materials and contracts.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
John Zellers, Vice President, Procurement and Enterprise Services. I will be speaking on bids for materials and contracts, which may be found under tab 12. There are just a few items that I plan to discuss this morning, and the first may be found at the top of page 2. We are recommending an extension for managed security information and event management and log monitoring services through Guidepoint software. These services are directly related to district cybersecurity efforts. In 2019, we issued an RFP for these services in which Guidepoint was awarded a 3-year contract out of 11 providers. Guidepoint's current bid includes an annual increase of $7,474. However, total overall spend for the next 3 years will be $2,578 less than the previous 3 years, as there will not be any initial implementation costs that would likely occur if we change providers. When we received proposals in 2019, the next lowest acceptable proposal was priced at $549,000. Guidepoint has performed well over the last 3 years and has been a good partner in our cybersecurity efforts. The next 2 items may also be found on page 2. We accepted bids for 1 mini excavator, in which Murphy Tractor was the lowest bid that met specifications, as the other 2 lower bids had multiple exceptions to the specifications. We also accepted bids for 3 diesel-driven welders, in which Matheson was the lowest bidder that met specs, as lower bids didn't meet specifications for engine horsepower, wireless interface controls, or didn't provide pricing for all requested items. The last item may be found on page 3. We are recommending entering into a contract with Bus Lincoln to paint 15 fire hydrants in 2022. Ms. Langle briefly discussed that in her presentation. Bus Lincoln has painted hydrants for the district since at least 2010. In 2019, we went out for bids for a 3-year contract in which an out-of-state contractor was the successful bidder. Though their work was satisfactory, it didn't come without challenges that delayed work during the contract period. Bus Lincoln is a local contractor and was the second low bid in 2019. The bid they submitted for 2022 is the same as they submitted in 2019 for 2021 work. And that's all I have for you this morning, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Do we still have interns, summer interns, painting the hydrants?
Yes, we do. That's part of our strategy with the hydrant paintings. I believe we have one, maybe two.
Okay, good, thanks.
John, can I get an example of what an out-of-town challenge is, just for my own education?
Yeah, in this particular case, I think some of it is just the business relationship, being able to get contracts in a timely manner, bonding in a timely manner. And then we had some challenges in this particular contractor providing verification that they were meeting specifications as far as the type of paint that we were requesting. And so those are some examples that we had challenges with.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up, Vice President of Engineering and Construction, Corey O'Brien, reviewing proposed main extensions.
Good morning, or maybe I should say top of the morning, given our nod to upcoming St. Patrick's Day. That's right, absolutely. Corey O'Brien, Vice President of Engineering and Construction. Behind tab 13 is our main extensions letter for this month. We have 4 water main extensions. The impact of these 4 projects being 88 single residence lots, 6 multi-residence lots, 1 commercial lot, and 2 outlots. If you look at the map on page 1, you'll see that our 4 projects are divided amongst subdivisions 1, 4, and 5. Turning to page 2, briefly I will mention that projects 1 and 2, Cheyenne Ridge and Palisades Point, we will not be serving gas on these projects, as these 2 projects do fall outside of our service territory. Item number 3, Grove Ridge. The developer has requested M.U.D gas for that project. And last, on item number 4, the Highlander redevelopment project and the Stricklands, 2 comments. One being that this project will be installed under our WCD policy. And secondly, the developer has requested M.U.D gas for the 7 single residence lots that are part of this project. That's all I have this morning for you. Do you have any questions I can answer?
What's the WCD policy?
I was just going to say what you...
Yeah, that's our policy where the developer can hire the contractor directly. Most of our projects, the developers allow us to hire the contractor to do the installation. So under our WCD policy, the developer can do that directly. They pay the contractor for the installation. We still do the testing and the inspection. So it gives the developer a little more control over their project, and some choose to do it that way.
Thank you.
So if you don't mind, Corey and Director Cook, I'd like to expound just for a second. This came, I don't know when this was, but sometime in my tenure on the board, this came to be as a result of water's developer driven. It's paid for by developers, but M.U.D has all the administrative role, the contract, but it's developer driven. Unlike gas, where we put the money in the ground and we get our return over X amount of years under a policy. So as a result of a customer request to say, we think we can do this more efficiently than always having M.U.D do the administrative work and so that's why that was allowed and our policy was changed. It doesn't happen very often.
No.
Because it's not true. That's what I see.
Right. I mean,
we do a splendid job of that, and there's
Agreed.
so much to it that it's underestimated. I don't know why some still do, Corey, and maybe you do or don't, but it doesn't happen much.
Sure. I mean, it's not uncommon because of the nature of the business of development that developers have a relationship with contractors, and sometimes they partner, and this allows them to have a little more control over that arrangement, right? So. Yeah. To Mr. Doyle's comment, I would agree. I mean, the majority of our development contracts are handled by us, and that is good testimony to the way that we handle them, and the developers are comfortable with us doing that. So, but it does give them flexibility, which is nice too.
And that we react to customer requests and say, we see your point, and some that have done it probably have come back. But it's a great question. I was going to say it's a topic that you wouldn't think of until it occurs. Thank you.
And WCD stands for?
Jeff left. Water
Water
contract.
construction development
Yes.
developer?
Right.
Yeah.
I should have probably spelled that out in there.
That's
My
okay.
apologies.
CIT is usually the one get accused of acronym disguise, right?
Right, right. Anything else this morning? All right,
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
Next up, Vice President of Human Resources, Bonnie Savine, with employee wage and/or salary increases and ratifications. Morning.
Yes. Good morning. Hello to all of you. I'll begin by recapping employee counts for the end of February for the last 2 years. On February 28th of 21, we had 806 regular full-time employees and 4 regular part-time, for a total of 810 regular employees. And ending this February, we had 821 regular full-time and 3 regular part-time, for a total of 824. We also had 7 temporary part-time employees at the end of February. For jobs that are actively in the placement process, we have 5 jobs with a requisition that is routing through the approval process right now, and 5 that are posted. 3 of those are internal, 2 of those are external only. We do also have our 4 summer jobs posted right now, and those are online at mudomaha.com as well under our careers tab. And we will be accepting applications for those positions until the end of this month. We may extend that a little bit, but we're hopeful that we'll be bringing on all 25 of those summer positions later in May, starting in May. We have 20 jobs that are currently in the application review and interview stages. That's the result of the large number of postings we had just a few weeks ago. And then we have 7 jobs with 10 candidates currently awaiting their start date over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, and then on to tab 14. That is where we'll find our wage and/or salary increases and ratifications letter. Human Resources is recommending the Board of Directors approve wage or salary increases for 24 employees this month. 12 OAC employees are recommended for promotion based on the normal job posting process. We also have 9 OAC employees that are being promoted due to a natural job progression within their normal job family. We have 1 SPA promotion, and we have 2 new hire ratifications from the previous month at the end of the letter. Are there any questions on that letter? Okay, terrific. All right, and then I do have one other, and that is tab 15. That is the recommendation for the SPA salary structure adjustment. As discussed last month, existing salary scales for the SPA group are reviewed on an annual basis. The 2022 structure adjustment recommendation does continue to reflect our commitment to organizational excellence and financial responsibility. Today's recommended 2.25 increase is in the approved budget. The information behind tab 15 outlines the recommendation for the 2022 SPA salary structure adjustment of 2.25%. The adjustment would still be effective if approved today on March 1st, and it also reflects the percent of the annual general increase for those employees who are eligible. Are there any questions at this time? Director Bagley?
Bonnie, thanks for, this was laid over from last month, and Bonnie and her team provided me and the Personnel Committee with some more information. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And this letter reflects that, based on our discussion last month and then the data provided by Bonnie, that the SPA 11s and above would be excluded from receiving the general increase or progression increase for 2022. So thank you for that, and thanks to my colleagues for indulging me in the clumsy way I put it and phrased it last month. I also want to make the distinction that this process is for the SPAs is separate from our consideration for the M.U.D. president, which we'll consider at a later time. So,
Yes, it is.
So Bonnie, thank you for this information, And again, to my colleagues for indulging me.
Any other questions? Great. Yes. It is, yes, above 11s, employees above 11s.
SPA above 11, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next at bat is Judicial and Legislative Government Relations Attorney Rick Kubat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On tab 16 should be the legislative report. I'm going to start on page 3 and mention LB 344, where this board has previously taken a position of neutral on the bill. I'm going to ask that we change our position to oppose. This bill is originally offered at the committee level last year, was going to create basically a hit board for issues related to one-call violations. If there was a controversy, the legislation would create a board that would deal with conflicts, and it would be made up of this representative from the state fire marshal's office, 2 operators, 2 excavators, and 2 locators. That bill was advanced to the floor, and as part of the sausage-making process, it has been amended, and the amendment will completely replace the bill. And the amendment, it's essentially a new bill. The amended version of the bill would have the state fire marshal's office do both the investigation of a one-call violation or a one-call controversy, and the state fire marshal would also play the role in levying any penalties. The state fire marshal would then let the party that alleged to have engaged in the misconduct, if they wanted to appeal, the state fire marshal would essentially appoint a hearing officer. So we're looking at 2 completely different bills, and because of that, I would like to ask the board for a little bit of latitude in the sense that all interested parties, excavators and locators, are going to be meeting in the near future to work on the bill to see if we can all get to a place where we can be supportive of what's going to be considered on the floor. So we're essentially dealing with the new bill. The other reason why I want to bring it to your attention is this legislation looked like it was going to die on the vine, but it received a speaker priority designation, so it very well could get considered by the body of the legislature. So again, management's recommendation would be to move from neutral to oppose, given that we have essentially completely different legislation than was heard in committee. The next item I would like to discuss is on page 5, because of its importance to the district, LB 809 by Senator Moser. That was the bill that's important for purposes of requesting funds for lead service lines, where the Nebraska Department of Energy, or Environment and Energy, would increase the amount of loan forgiveness under the state revolving fund from 50 to 75%. Just wanted to alert the board that that bill did receive a committee priority designation and currently sits on general file, which is a good thing. So its trajectory looks like a good one in terms of getting that bill passed. On that same page is LB 847, the bill introduced on behalf of the district to provide clarification that we can use design build. That bill is been placed on final reading, so there's just one more stage for the passage of that bill. So that one also appears to be in very good shape. And then the last bill I wanted to briefly discuss with you is on page 8. Given that we spent quite a bit of time on it at our last board meeting, LB 1046 by Senator Bosselman, the bill that would have had the governor appoint 5 of 9 members of both OPPD and NPPD's boards and future CEOs. That bill did not get a priority designation and still sits in committee. So at this juncture, it appears that that bill's not going anywhere. So with that, happy to answer any questions that you might have on any other legislative items.
Rick, thanks so much for working so hard on 1046 and keeping the wolf from the door, literally. I really appreciate all your work. You do a great job.
Yeah, Rick, this seemed to be more challenging than previous years, so I think you earned your money this year. So thanks for all your work.
Thank you. April 20th is going to be here soon, and we'll move away from this legislature, and we're going to have a lot of new members, somewhere between 10 and 16 new members in the body next session. So next year will be an interesting one. Thank you very much. You have a good day.
Thank you. All right. Committee of the Whole, Director of Infrastructure Integrity, Masania, along with Senior Infrastructure Engineer Jared Swagara, will now provide an update on the infrastructure replacement program. Thank you, Masa.
Good morning. Director of Infrastructure Integrity, I'm Masania. And Jared and I are excited to provide an update on both the gas and water infrastructure replacement programs, all the work the district's accomplished, our current plans, and some of the innovative solutions we have moving forward. First, we'll start on the natural gas system. Now, this slide and the next slide illustrates how much work has been accomplished since the start of the infrastructure replacement program in 2008. What you're seeing here in blue, we had over 560 miles of cast iron gas mains, which provided the majority of gas service to the area east of 72nd Street. Each mile of old cast iron gas main included over 100 gas services, many of these old and leaking and needing replacement as well, that were part of the cast iron system. Back then, we had nearly 200 corrosion-related failures each year on these mains, and the break rates were trending up at the time. Again, this map shows the cast iron gas mains that were in service about 14 years ago, and I will move on to the next slide, which is showing a map of the mains left today. Let me see if I can get this to work. All right, thanks, Jay. All right, so today we have slightly over 153 miles of cast iron mains remaining, as shown in this map. As you can see, the footprint has significantly been reduced on that cast iron system. These cast iron mains have been replaced with more reliable and more efficient high-pressure plastic gas mains. The services have also been replaced, and these plastic services are safer today, even safer today with excess flow valves, what the gas industry calls EFVs. And basically what that is, it's a safety device that's installed near the tap of the service to the main, and if somebody digs in or cuts that service line, it'll shut off the flow of gas, making it safer. So each one of the services that has been replaced includes an EFV. Now, the main breaks have reduced. We're not dealing with 200 main breaks, digging up the streets and having to make those repairs. Those have dropped to 30 main breaks on average with a reduced footprint. Last year, and I'll go back a slide here, Jay, please. Last year, we did replace 44 miles of mains and 4,000 services throughout the system. Our goal, again, is to replace another 40 miles of cast iron mains this year using both M.U.D. crews and Q3, our contract partner. The split will be, again, about 15 miles completed by our crews and about 25 miles completed by Q3. This work will get more difficult in the last 100 miles. If you do the straight math, 40 miles a year, we should be completed before our end goal of 2027. But with the last 100 miles, it does get more difficult. We're dealing with larger diameter mains, And we've got to take a very careful, systematic approach in how we dismantle that low-pressure system as the last pieces are taken out of service. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to thank the board for the support that has gotten us this far. Without the support, we wouldn't be where we're at today. But I'd like to also acknowledge the employees of the district that have contributed to meeting our goals the past several years. Everyone from CAD technicians like Deb Lehman, Nikki Brandis, who put plans together, our designers, Eric Gibbons, Sarah Jones, to our field personnel like Ken Clifford and Jim Horan, and even to the very end where we're updating our records to our GIS with our GIS techs like Justin Kiekler and Joe Palermo. So there's so many people involved. I just named a few, but it really is a credit to the employees that we're meeting our goals year after year on the gas program. Now, it doesn't stop after cast iron main replacement. So gas infrastructure replacement will continue after cast iron. It's part of distribution integrity management, which is required by the federal regulations to continue to evaluate your system and assess your risks. Now, we have nearly a century-old bare steel gas mains out there, about 14 miles of that, very large mains that are also difficult to replace. We also have gas meters that will still be inside of homes that we're looking to move outside to make it safer and more efficient to maintain those assets. We've got a distribution integrity committee that reviews these and will make recommendations to the senior management and the board on what's next after cast iron main replacement. So the main point is there's more work to follow. We've accomplished a lot, but there's more work ahead. Next slide, please. So we'll pivot to the water distribution system. And on the next slide, you'll see, and we've seen this before, our water main breaks happen all across our system. Even though they predominantly happen on our cast iron water mains, we're also seeing an uptick in some of our older ductile iron mains as well. Our repair crews are busy out there. They collect data on each of these breaks. And when they're collecting this data, it helps with future repair decisions. More recently, the crews have been collecting data on iPads. It's more efficient and it's more accurate collecting that data that way. And Jared will be covering later in the presentation how we're leveraging this data to help with future maintenance and replacement decisions. Next slide, please. Now, we've experienced 566 main breaks last year. And the increasing numbers over time isn't new to us. We've seen these charts before, the trends going up. This isn't unique to our system. Many other cities are experiencing this as well and a need to replace more pipe. We recognize that more needs to be done to turn the curve, and it'll take years, given the size of our system, to see the curve change. But we've done a lot of work the past several years, past decade, with the infrastructure replacement to start turning that curve. More recently, we've developed a linear asset management plan that helped develop a roadmap to better understand the progress needed and the roadmap ahead to get us below an acceptable break rate. Now, the Water Research Foundation has developed a break rate goal of 15 breaks per 100 miles, and that is built into our plan. If we get there, we're talking about 100 less main breaks each year. Next slide, please. So our roadmap ahead. In 2021, we replaced 14.2 miles of high-risk water mains. In addition to the water main replacement, we also condition assessed 1 mile of high-consequence water mains in the Dodge Street corridor and also in an industrial area out near 102nd and I Street. Our crews are actually out there now doing some of the rehab work as a follow-up to the condition assessment that was completed last year. In this case, the mileage, with the mileage and condition assessment work, our trend is moving in the right direction. We're going up. As we plan ahead, we're looking to go slow now to go faster. And what I mean by that is going slow now will allow us to leverage some of these technologies like condition assessment more and leak monitoring devices. And Jared will be covering that in more detail as well. And it doesn't just stop with technology and some of those innovative approaches. We're looking at things like pipe bursting and different construction methods and materials. So it really is a whole comprehensive approach to reducing these main breaks in the future. Our goal in 2022 is to replace 16 miles of high-risk mains, and it will also include 2 miles of condition assessment using the Sea Snake. The 16 miles is roughly split into half by half of it being completed by our crews, M.U.D crews, replacing those mains, and about half being completed by contract partners. Next, I'll turn it over to Jared to cover some of these plans that we have with our projects and condition assessment.
Thanks, Masa. So yeah, as Masa mentioned, I'm Jared Sfigera, the Senior Infrastructure Engineer for Infrastructure Integrity. And I'm gonna, Jay, if you can advance the slide one. I'm gonna cover today kind of our accomplishments in 2021 and then our plans for the future. So in 2021, we met our goal of mitigating 15 miles of risk by completing 14.2 miles of water infrastructure replacement and nearly a mile of distribution main condition assessment. M.U.D crews completed 8.2 miles, and our 5 contract partners completed 6 miles. These projects affected over 1,500 water services, which included 115 full lead service replacements. And if you could advance one, Jay, just to drop in the call-outs. Thank you. The map on this slide shows the locations of the 2 distribution main condition assessments. These assessments were completed using the Pika Sea Snake, which I mentioned in last year's presentation, to assess nearly a mile of 12-inch water mains. This will allow us to make surgical repairs and ensure a continued high-quality service life along these high-consequence corridors. We also show the location where we installed an innovative new form of PVC pipe called IPVC, which was developed to be more ductile, and this is suitable for developed IR areas. Next slide, please, Jay. In 2022, as Masha mentioned, our goal is to replace 16 miles of water main and condition assess 2 miles of distribution mains. Given the value of condition assessment that we recognized last year, we've decided to increase our utilization of this technology, and this will allow us to continue to mitigate the risk of water main failures without the need for costly full replacement. Just advance one, thank you. Additionally, we plan to pilot our first contracted pipe bursting project in 2022. Pipe bursting has also proven to be a cost-effective tool where it can be used, and we're excited to ramp up that work with a contract partner. Next slide, please, Jay. As I mentioned earlier, our condition assessment program is intended to target high-consequence water mains. We've assessed our concrete water transmission mains for several years using a robotic crawler, but this year we're planning to pilot a new free swimming platform known as Pipe Diver, as Gina mentioned earlier. And that tool is shown there on the left. And this will be used to assess a high-consequence transmission main through a highly developed area. This free swimming tool uses the same technology as the robotic crawler, so we'll get the same data that we're used to, but allows us to navigate the many bends and T's along this proposed main without the need for costly access points. On the left is a photo of the Sea Snake tool, which we piloted in 2021. This photo was taken along Dodge Street, where we assessed the 12-inch water main between the Methodist and Children's hospitals. This tool offers highly granular data, which allows our crews to make surgical repairs to the water main, only replacing or protecting what is needed and ensuring the longest possible service life. Next slide, please, Jay. So along with condition assessment, we have our condition monitoring program, which Masa mentioned earlier. And with this, we take a 2-pronged approach. On the left shows the installation of one of our Hydrant pressure monitors. Last year in 2021, we installed 5 units, and just a couple of weeks ago, we installed 20 more units, given the success of the pilot program. These detect pressure anomalies in the system and provide real-time alerts to operations. The information gathered from these devices will be used to refine our hydraulic model also. And then on the right, in addition to pressure monitoring, we continued our leak monitoring efforts. Since we started using mobile leak loggers in 2019, we've identified several leaks and were able to repair them before they became a catastrophic burst. The tool is becoming further ingrained in our day-to-day operations, and we plan to continue ramp up by purchasing more units and dedicating more resources. Scheduling a leak repair is much less costly and much less disruptive than repairing a water main break. Next slide. So finally, to summarize, I'd like to share how we're continuing to use our linear asset management tools to quantify risk and make decisions. Starting this year in 2022, all of our replacement projects were prioritized using this GIS-based risk model in conjunction with other non-M.U.D work such as city repaving and redevelopment areas. So this really allows us to kind of bring all that stuff together in one comprehensive model. In addition to prioritizing replacement, this tool is also used to decide how we'll utilize the other tools I discussed previously, like condition monitoring, condition assessment, where all that's going to happen. And as the system grows and risks change, this model will continue to be updated to ensure priorities are adjusted year after year so we know we're addressing the highest risk water infrastructure. And then with that, next slide, Jay. I'd like to open the floor to any questions for Masa or myself.
Jared, with as far as smart hydrants, I assume we've had the fire department look at these and they will work with their equipment and there won't be any adaptations necessary?
Yeah, great question. So there's actually no change to the actual fire hydrant itself. So the pressure monitor actually sits down inside the valve plate, and then there's the underneath the bonnet of the hydrant is just a little bit extended where we house the electronics. So the fire department, honestly, when they show up, probably wouldn't even notice that it's a smart hydrant. They're pretty discreet and it doesn't change any of the operation.
Okay, thank you.
And Jared, to follow up on Tim's question, I think you said there are 25, there were 5 last year and scheduled for 20 smart hydrants this year. Will that continue to escalate, to increase going forward?
That's the plan. Yeah, we've budgeted for 20 more, I believe, every year until we get to, I want to say, a total of about 85 hydrants. So yeah, our pressure zones are so massive, especially the zone 2, that we just need we'd like to monitor a little bit more granular than what we've got so far with the 25.
Sure. Good presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to put a few wrap comments on this. Are you going to also wrap it up, Masa? I mean, okay. Mark Doyle, President. So one of these hydrants, I'm glad you asked, Director Begley, are on my walking route. There's one in my neighborhood, and I'm happy to tell you that the dogs have approved. There's no problem with them. And also, I thought, okay, so interesting. This has been a big push since 2018. Not that we've been ignoring it, but I would say our gas infrastructure replacement program is one of the best stories in the nation, without a doubt. And you mentioned the board, and I'm glad you do, because what that really means is you support the funds we need and you trust us that we're doing the right thing. Now, the gas system is a safety issue and it's a reliability issue, and it's putting it is generally older neighborhoods, our cast iron, low pressure gas mains. So agree, I'm glad you mentioned a few employees. You're brave because you're always going to leave someone out. There are so many involved, and we would say we thank the public too, because when you think of 40 miles, we are installing 40 miles of low pressure cast iron new gas mains every year. It's a lot of disruption. So we also have to thank the public. All said and done, any area you go through that we've completed these upgrades, for example, the Exarban area, east of Exarban Village. Beautiful. And we're not just making the neighborhood safer and more reliable for the next 100 or more, it also improves property values in the older parts of town across the metro. So we thank all of our customers for trusting us, and you saw that Joe Shafford, our CFO, sent out the note yesterday that our bonds sold quickly at a great interest rate, and that doesn't just happen. They, little financials, but that doesn't just happen. That takes a lot of work and a lot of information to make sure that those rating agencies are confident in what we do, so thank you for that. On the water side, we are always going to be in a reactive mode for a while, and I like that I don't know if it was Masa or Jared that said we're going a little slower to go faster. This conditional assessment technology is fantastic. Not only are we able to assess mains like the 2 that we did last year and save hundreds of thousands of dollars and leave pipe in the ground that should be left in the ground. I mean, arguably we're accepting a little risk, but I think it's a calculated risk. Not only are we able to do that, we're able to look at high consequence mains like Gina mentioned early in her presentation. That main would cost 50 to 60 million to replace. It's a concrete main that runs a lot of water between Edna Street and the Field Club Reservoir. Now we can look at pipes that we really haven't had the advantage to look at. So on the water side, we're moving to a proactive mode. Hats off to you all. I mentioned the hydrant in our neighborhood, and I think, well, they must know that I'm watching. Well, last night at 4 in the morning, a water main break right outside our window kept us up for an hour or 2. I will tell you, our crews do great work, even at 4 in the morning. So I get it all. That makes me think it isn't strategic. It's just the way our system's running. So again, thanks to the board for your support for the funds to keep going this however many miles we get to in terms of replacement, or I would say installing new mains plus conditional assessment is critically important. And in order to grow, to meet this with our employees, we don't have the room. So I have to say this is a big picture thing, and supporting our construction center too is another key imperative move that we are glad you're trusting us with. So we have the room to expand, which I think we're going to have to expand. We have design engineer partners, we have water main contract partners, we have gas contract partners, but we could do more in the future. There's no doubt about that. So didn't mean to put such a long wrap on it, but this is such an exciting topic. We almost could say this is the state of district, Director Bay, but we won't. But it will cut that section a little short when we get to it. Thank you both.
I have a question. Is the term water main break and water main event, break and event, are those synonymous? Or could there be an event, like a break being more, an event being more than one break is the question I had.
Right, yeah, thanks for the question. We tried to kind of lump everything together into what's called a water main event, and that could be either a catastrophic burst, which, you know, most of our water main breaks are breaks, or also a leak, which is typically like a non-emergency event that we can get to on a later date.
Okay.
So yeah, we lump all those together into.
All right, so an event is everything from a leak to a burst, geyser kind of a situation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But you bring up a good question. How we count this is it a break? Is it just a leak? Was it? I mean, it is important going forward, so we make as good a decisions as possible on where we're going next. And
so the 200 per year, it could be everything from a leak to a break, a big break that you perceive as a water main break.
The 500 to 600 each
Yeah,
year. Yes,
okay.
yes, it could be a leak or the catastrophic break.
All right.
And that's the beauty of those FCS loggers that we're piloting, is to try to make more of those catastrophic breaks into planned repairs, so it's not as disruptive to the customer and doesn't have the potential to wash out a road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Are there any other comments from board members at this time? All right. Any comments from members of the public who may be attending in the conference room?
I'm sorry, Director Cook. No questions from the public. We do have one in attendance. I apologize. No questions.
Right. Thank you very much. The committee meetings have now concluded. We'll reconvene for the regular board meeting in 10 minutes. I would now like to call the meeting to order. I'm Tanya Cook, Vice Chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you to the regular board meeting this morning, March 2nd, 2022. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. I would like to announce that we are continuing our COVID precautions by limiting the number of attendees in the boardroom at today's meeting to the extent possible, requiring unvaccinated people to wear masks and recommending that all attendees abide by the 6-foot social distancing rule. Thank you for your cooperation in this regard. In the interest of protecting health and safety of any members of the public, those who may be attending today's proceedings may do so from an adjacent conference room. If any member of the public wishes to address the board, they will be escorted to the boardroom by the conference room moderator. Roll call.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Frost. McGowan. Howard.
Here.
Kavanaugh.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
The Open Meetings Act. I'd like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom, and a copy is also available in the nearby conference room set aside for members of the public who may attend. As was announced at last month's meeting, this board must comply with a statutory requirement under the Open Meetings Act, limiting the number of virtual board meetings to 6 total over the course of the calendar year. This announcement is solely intended to ensure that this board remains mindful of the statutory limitation. At this time, there are 4 possible meetings remaining for the year that may be attended remotely by any single board member. As mentioned at the February board meeting, virtual attendance is still possible after the 4 meeting limitation has been met, but board members attending remotely after that point will not be considered to be in attendance as present. Thank you. All right, the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Item number 4, approval of minutes for the committee meetings and regular board meeting for February 2nd, 2022.
Move for approval.
Oh, yes, we do have a motion. Second.
Second.
All right.
Second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Right. Capital expenditures, the motion.
Director Friend.
I believe that's me.
Yes.
Capital expenditures discussed in committee. I move as outlined in the letter, and I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember the date.
Do we have a second?
I seconded.
Right. Roll call.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Great. This one is also Director Friend, the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates.
Also discussed in committee, and I move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley. Yes.
Next item, air emissions consultant agreement. Also discussed in committee, and I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
All right. Agenda number 8.
Water Services Partners, also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Stephanie Henn dated February 22nd.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Right. Item number 9.
Also discussed in committee, and I move approval as outlined in the memo from Mr. Corey O'Brien dated February 10th.
Right. Is there
Second.
second discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
All right, item number 10. Director Friend.
Also discussed in committee, I move approval as outlined in the letter from Corey O'Brien dated February 15th.
I'll second it. Is there any discussion?
The only comment I might have on this is when we have security issues like this, that maybe we have it run by our security staff, which maybe you probably already did, but it would be a good idea if they would review it and maybe sign off on it. My only comment.
All right. Anything else for discussion on that item? Roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Great. Item number 11. Director Friend.
Also discussed in committee, do not have the letter open in front of me. I move approval as outlined in the letter.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Okay. Agenda item number 12. Director Friend.
Also discussed in committee, bids on materials. I move approval as outlined in the letter from Ms. Sherry Meisinger dated February 18th.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Agenda item number 13. Director Friend.
Main extensions also discussed in committee, move approval as outlined in the letter from Corey O'Brien dated February 22nd.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Agenda item number 14. Director Begley.
I move that we approve the wage and salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this morning and outlined in the letter from Vice President Savine on February 18th, 2022.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Okay.
Item 15, the SPA salary structure adjustment. I move that we approve the SPA salary structure adjustment as stated in the letter dated February 25th, 2022 from Vice President Savine and discussed in committee this morning.
And I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
All right, and item number 16 on the agenda, the second legislative report. I move we approve the recommendations proposed by Mr. Kubat in the second legislative report for 2022, dated February 23rd, and as presented in the committee meetings.
Second.
Do we need to hold out
Discussion.
344 because we're changing a position, if I understand correctly?
Yes, and I understand the motion to include what was presented by Mr. Kubat today to cover what we changed in terms of that recommendation for that bill proposal.
That would be in the discussion.
Yeah, so is that clearer?
Yeah, we're changing it from neutral to opposed.
Yes. Okay?
And that's the discussion, yes.
Yeah, that's what we
If
talked
council's
about.
okay with that wording.
Yeah. All right, good discussion. Roll
Good
call.
reminder.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
All right. Agenda item number 17. President Doyle.
Good morning again, Mark Doyle, President. Under this agenda item, we wanted to offer a brief, unless there are more questions, overview of the M.U.D. Lincoln water system discussions that have occurred over the last few years. Most recently, Director Howard forwarded an article from the Lincoln Journal-Star, which we appreciate, where the Lincoln water system actually mentions M.U.D. often as they go out. This time they're going out for an RFP, and they have a couple solutions. The two largest solutions would be building a water plant on the Missouri River, which is quite a ways east of Lincoln, or possibly connecting to M.U.D. under a wholesale agreement. Director Howard asked for an update, and we appreciate the request, and we think we should probably have this topic as a somewhat recurring update. We want to be real clear, no commitments have been made. This has only been a discussion over the last couple years at the request of Lincoln. I met with former Mayor Beitler and the current mayor once, but former Mayor Beitler a couple times. We would hope that there's an opportunity for both of us, or we wouldn't consider it. So Chief Operations Officer Gina Langle is going to give a brief overview, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Good morning again. Gina Langle, Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. M.U.D. has been working actively with the City of Lincoln to determine what role, if any, that M.U.D. will play in supporting Lincoln's long-term water needs. It's been ongoing for quite some time, as you all know. The parties did engage HDR to assist with looking at some of the technical and strategic things that would come into play with that. M.U.D. has communicated to the City of Lincoln that it cannot and will not make any commitments until after an analysis of our master water plan, which includes special attention toward answering the questions of what production and distribution capacity we can have for the City of Lincoln. M.U.D. and the City of Lincoln are engaged in the discussions, and we are supportive of each other. We feel it has been a positive and productive relationship, and it has been clear that there are no commitments at this time. M.U.D. supported Lincoln's efforts to secure the ARPA funds for the state's purpose of an alternate water supply. The appropriation of these dollars does not dictate Lincoln's ultimate decision, and the decision to connect to M.U.D. could be part of that, or it could be to build a new water treatment facility of their own. As the master plan is finalized in the next couple of months, we'll understand our capabilities better, and it'll become clear what our intention is to move forward with that. But we intend to keep the board communicating with all of the steps as we go forward with it. So as Mr. Doyle mentioned, we really have made no commitments at this time. We're still in the gathering information and making sure that we know what is best for our customers as we move forward with this. Do you have any questions?
I have a question about the discussions. I recognize that this is just kind of introductory and information gathering. And I heard former Mayor Beitler's name, but I don't know if we've had, or in any sort of communication with the current mayor, Mayor Baird, or her staff.
She has been on a couple of the calls that we have had, but we are more working with the city administrator, the public works people in that particular one. So,
Director Cook.
Yes, thank you.
Rick Kubat and I met with the current mayor in person, not too long, in her first year, it might have been earlier in her first year, at the request of the water, the water personnel, to have a nice sit down to maybe brief her on what's been done so far, the joint study that Gina mentioned and those sort of things. We had a really nice kickoff meeting, and as Gina also mentioned, we had a Zoom meeting that would have been in person with the mayor late last year.
Yeah,
So
I was.
we're keeping in communication, and we just want to make sure that we manage everyone's expectations, and when we're mentioned in newspaper articles, that it's not by our, we're trying not to cause that, so.
And to be clear, they did let us know that they were doing that, that they were going to be mentioning us, in there. So we were aware of that. We didn't expect that it would be picked up the way that it was. But we were aware of that. So we have been in constant communication, but we've had no commitments with them, and they're aware of that.
Thank you. All right.
Madam Chair, one last item. I just want to remind everybody that the 15th Annual Heat the Streets Walk and Run for Warmth is this Saturday, and we're close to 600 people registered. So it's getting close to, if not already breaking a record. So anybody who's not registered, please feel free to register, or you can register the day of the event. And there's more details at heatthestreetsomaha.com. So hopefully we'll see you out there. We were talking earlier, we might have some rain in the forecast, but it's better than sub-zero temperatures. And we do need the rain, of course. So hope to see everybody out there. It's a fun family event.
And I want to know why the weather tends to be better when Bagley's are sponsoring this than when Howard's get the bitter, bitter cold.
Maybe it's the luck of the Irish in March, Gwen.
Thank you for that reminder. And it's in person this year. Last year we were virtual. So this seems a lot more fun.
It is that you can do it virtually also too, but hopefully people show up and get out on a warm spring, late winter day.
Yeah, thank you. All right, agenda item number 18. We will now, any further comments from among the board members on any of the items from the agenda before we go into closed session? Okay, hearing none, we will now go into closed session for the purpose of discussing litigation, real estate, and personnel matters. For those who will be participating in the closed session, we will be meeting in the cafeteria. So after the motion has been voted on, we'll follow Mark Mendenhall to the specified location.
Second.
Do we have a motion? Thank you, second. I guess
think
that
you
was the
made the
motion.
motion, yes.
Any discussion on this? Roll call.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? Roll call?
Cook,
Yes.
Friend. Oh, Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes?
Bagley.
Yes.
Right. All right, does anyone have any comments they would like to share? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Cook,
Yes.
Friend, Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Right, we are adjourned.
Great job, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Round of applause for you.